Shadow Binders is back in stock on shopclownfish.com. That's shopclownfish.com. And now on with the show. Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And today we're going to talk about Kickstarter and PayPal sort of tag teaming a lewd anime Kickstarter and withholding funds from the project creator on the grounds that it was lewd. Now, what's interesting about this is Kickstarter has not been averse to running lewd campaigns in the past.
Yeah, the first thing I said to you was, wait, didn't Smut Peddler do something like that?
Yeah, it's interesting because Smut Peddler, and look, we're not throwing shade at Smut Peddler, but
I'm just saying.
They've been around for a while, and they're kind of hailed as this Kickstarter success story. We love, what's this, robotic porn. It's one of the most popular projects on Kickstarter. That was 2 years ago.
So how come these places are allowed to do it?
Yeah, how come they're allowed to have dirty content, but these folks can't? So we're going to talk about that. And we'll talk a little bit about Patreon. We've got Jack Conte from Patreon making the rounds now, saying that you can't trust any platform. As he runs a platform whose trust has it's been violated.
Right, people don't trust them.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about all of that before we get into it any further. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We're over 206,000 subs. Thank you for the support. And I did see this making the rounds on Twitter yesterday. Okay, visual novel, so it'd be like a video game.
Okay.
Kind of like a choose your own adventure.
Oh, okay.
You can choose with or without pants, I guess, is sort of how it works. And they do have a game in the series on the Steam store. We know Steam was banning stuff too. So I'm not exactly sure what the issue is, but the problem here is apparently PayPal is sitting on their money.
Okay.
Which we know.
It just seems like such a double standard.
Yeah. Again, Kickstarter has had no problem with lewd content.
Yeah, it's their 6th anthology they did.
Yeah.
And you could back it on Kickstarter.
Yeah. And these are pretty dirty books as I understand it. Again, not throwing shade at Smut Peddler, just
unabashedly sex positive and features a series of queer inclusive comics.
It's not anime. It's not manga style. I mean, look, I hate
to it the right way.
I hate to be that guy, but there does seem to be a concerted effort against manga and anime style artwork. When it comes to banning stuff, it's usually if something's going to get banned for being lewd, it's going to be manga or anime style.
Because they'll say, they look younger.
They look. But
sometimes
younger.
These characters look young in the other comics too.
Yep. Okay. So after the adult visual novel Lewd Idol Project, I wonder what that's about.
I don't know.
Was accused by PayPal of being related to real-world services. Developer Toffer Team has reported that the payment processing platform has not only barred them from using their services, but also restricted them from accessing any of the money previously raised for the campaign through its Kickstarter campaign. A Yuri-centric adult visual novel, Lewd Idol Project, follows the story of Kairi, a young girl who moves. This is not Kingdom Hearts.
No.
This is not Kingdom Hearts. Anyway, she wants to be the biggest and most popular idol ever. After embarking on her journey, Kairi encounters rejection from a number of different talent agencies, and in the process discovers that breaking into the idol business is more difficult than she previously believed, hence the casting couch. That might be the choose your own adventure part of it. Anyway, so launched a Kickstarter in October 2020, the project reached its initial development goal of $9,500, closing the campaign in November with a final total of $35,000 in contributions.
So this has been for months. Why now?
Months. However, on July 6th, just a day under 2 weeks after Lewd Idol's project's first volume was officially released, Toffer Team announced on Twitter that PayPal has permanently locked our account and remaining Kickstarter raised funds for Lewd Idol Project. According to the extended statement on the situation, this action was taken by PayPal due to our content being related to, according to them, sexual services.
Again, other if it's because people might get off to it. Well, you have Smut Peddler and all this other stuff, and they're bragging about how it's inclusive and it's porn.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm so tired of having almost all the mainstream platforms censoring, persecuting, and marginalizing creators just because we're making artistic adult anime style content.
I think it's the anime style content.
Look, we saw this with Patreon. We're going to talk about Patreon too. Again, to be clear, this is not my thing.
No, neither one of us.
Is this your thing?
No.
Okay.
This is not either one of our thing.
But there is a double standard, and where it's going to affect just kind of regular, manga and anime style works is that we're seeing stuff that is like PG-13 getting banned in countries like Australia and Russia. Akira. They're banning Akira in Russia. I mean, Russia bans everything, but they're banning Akira now, a 30-plus-year-old movie, a classic R-rated movie, but the R rating is more for the violence and the gore than it is for. But they said it's perverting children. I'm like, well, if you're letting your children watch Akira, there's definitely something wrong. But again, there's definitely an anti-anime manga agenda going on here. So here's what they said. They said they have literally tied our hands and deprived us of whatever money we needed to fulfill our future releases. The funds we had, thanks to the love and support of fans and followers who used their hard-earned money to support us and the project. The developer added, it's truly sad that a company so huge treats its clients this way, leaving us without any chance of reply, depriving us of funds without any prior notice, and from one day to another, leaving us without the possibility to keep doing what we love and are so passionate about, which is the development of adult games. Share the story so no other lewd content creator is left unaware of the nefarious way this company operates. Well, we know PayPal does this. If they think you're violating their terms of service, whether correct or incorrect, I mean, really all it can take is somebody to flag you and say, oh, this person's part of a hate group or this person's part of a whatever.
And, they don't actually have the time. These places don't even do their due diligence to make sure it's not true just because someone said it.
Yeah.
Until you threaten legal action and suddenly, things get, looked into.
So the game comes out, as I understand it, and then all of a sudden, like you said, it's like 8 months after the fact. So somebody probably flagged it and said, do you know that they're actually facilitating actual real world services, which would violate, but they don't even look into it. Again,
actual real world services. What is the real world service?
They're not allowed.
How is this any more real world service than like the smut peddler? Like, oh, look, I can read porn this way.
Yeah, right. It's cartoons. It doesn't count. As of the writing, the situation between Toffer Team and PayPal remains unresolved. At last I heard it wasn't, with the adult developers still unable to access their rightfully owned funds. It's still available for purchase on Steam. So this is kind of how Google does it too. And I jumped in there on Twitter. I said that if they ban your AdSense, they keep all your money.
Yeah, but here's the thing. This isn't the same thing as like the AdSense was there and it was, Google was giving you a share of it. This is their money they earned that PayPal has no right to have other than their fees. And then they're taking the money. Are they refunding it to people? If they're refunding it to people, that's a different story. But if they're keeping it, where's the money going is the question.
Yeah, because that's the thing. With Google, it is, these are, I'm going to get on a not so lewd picture. There we go. She's eating toast. That's not lewd. With Google, it's like that's on their ad network. That's ad revenue. And a lot of times they will actually return that to the advertiser after like a month or so. I know we've done Google campaigns before promoting, another blog we used to work on, and they would, if there was suspected click fraud or whatever, they would refund you the money. PayPal, the legal right thing to do would be to refund all the backers their money, but it is kind of disturbing, regardless of the reason, that they can just pull the plug on your account and hold your money in limbo.
Right, because like I say, if they're keeping the money, there's a problem there.
Well, we had this happen before with PayPal. We used to sell toys on eBay, and PayPal would always, back in the day, I don't know what the case is now, but they would always side with the buyer, even when the buyer is obviously lying. Mm-hmm. We were selling Transformers, and I remember we had a Shockwave.
Well, that one actually, we got to keep the money because they had that thing in play then that, they had and then people were abusing it, which was they had like a protection.
A buyer protection thing.
Yeah, so that it would cover it and so that they wouldn't actually go after the sellers, but then the buyers kept abusing it. But you go ahead and tell the story now that you know that. Okay,
so anyway, we were selling toys. We had a guy write us about a Shockwave we have, and he was in very, very...
kept asking over and over, or anything cracked on it, very specific issues.
The hoses. He had... Shockwave
that was one of the things he asked.
Yeah, and he was and we sent him close-up pictures, I think, if I remember correctly. And, he went for a pretty good chunk of money. He was I wish I would have kept him, but we sold Shockwave. And then like a month or two later, we hear from PayPal that this guy turned it in for like fraud or whatever. Now, it didn't come out of our money, but he said the hoses were cracked and there was this damage and that damage. And what we think he did, we can't prove it, but what we think he did is he bought one Shockwave from us and then he sent them a crappy Shockwave.
So you replaced it and got it for free.
Basically got a really
and
good
people
Shockwave.
And then when you asked him, like when we wrote the guy, well, can you send us pictures? Oh, I don't have a camera. And I'm like, and this is back when everybody had cameras.
You could drop he went for like $200 or $300. You could drop a couple $100 on a Shockwave toy, but you couldn't buy a digital camera. I mean, come on.
Yeah. So I mean, it was a scam, basically trying. But PayPal now. eBay does the same thing. It's like they always can decide with the buyer, even if, they're lying. And here we got, PayPal here is just doing this here, like they're just taking it away because someone might have flagged it or whatever. But what I don't understand is, again, the double standard. If they were treating everyone the same, I wouldn't be talking about this because this is not my thing. That's not my thing either.
No.
So, the only reason we're talking about it is because there appears to be a double standard here. That's the only reason why we're mentioning it.
Yeah. Now, they said that they were supposedly tying this developer to real world activity. That seems like a reach. I think somebody flagged them.
Right. Is it because, that was Revolutionary War, and this is obviously fantasy and that looks like it's a real world. Who knows? But it's still a double standard.
But it seems like more and more it's happening with, again, manga and anime style games and books. And some of the stuff that's being banned is strictly like PG-13 stuff. Mm-hmm. It's not that risque, but, everybody's like, well, they look like they could be 6. So we have to, I don't know. Anyway, The
other thing was, we're going to get to Patreon in a minute, too, was the fact that with Patreon, it was a running joke that if you wanted to make money on Patreon, you did porn.
Yes.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
Everybody was doing it. Not safe for work images.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because Patreon is trying to clean up its act because they're trying to go beg for venture capital. And I think this is kind of what happened with Tumblr, too, where they were startups and they literally would take anybody at first. And you could put any kind of content on there. And then when they get, and we're seeing it with OnlyFans too, when they get to a certain level, they're like, oh, we got to get some venture capital. Now we got to clean up our act because our platform is known for porn. We said before, coming from a webcomics background, 9 times out of 10, if you're going to make money on Patreon as a webcomic creator, it's going to be for lewd content. Mm-hmm. People don't want to pay that much to see a page or two of a free comic ahead of time. They don't care. Mm-mm. But they'll pay through the nose to see your characters doing it. Mm-hmm. That's true. Booby sell. And other bits. But I love this. So they're looking for venture capital now. They had Patreon way overvalued. Mm-hmm. Now Jack Conte, again, this is a platform you want to talk about, just getting kicked off. They have kicked people off for political wrongthink. They've kicked people off for putting up anime and manga style images. There's one artist, they demanded access to their Google Drive to see what kind of artwork was in there, because God forbid it's anime. And
it's been very nebulous. Like when you ask them, like, well, give us put guidelines out there. Like, here's what we're considering bad things. Cause it is it seems like for one person it's okay, but for another person it isn't. They won't do that. It's on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, and they have a trust and safety team. Basically, I think they ignore it until people put them on the radar.
I think they ignore it unless it's somebody who that has the right kind of think.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. If they don't like the way someone is politically, they don't like their leanings, they don't like whatever, then suddenly it's a problem. Now, some people just do say really shitty things, and I can understand that. But in the past, some of the issues weren't even on their platform. They were on other locations, not even on their platform, and they kicked them off.
Yeah, because their attitude is basically like, we don't want to bankroll hatred, or we don't want to bankroll this person because they're controversial, whatever. But then you look at on the other side of the spectrum.
But they weren't bankrolling. The fans were. They were a payment processor.
Yeah, I love this. That's why this whole thing is so. This is the headline. Patreon CEO Jack Conte on why creators can't depend on platforms.
I agree. You shouldn't depend on platforms.
You can't depend on Patreon either. You lost whatever damage control you're trying to do now, you lost it 2 years ago. People turned their back on Patreon, and now they got to go beg for venture capital. And this is after they laid a bunch of people off. This is after they had that "How you doing, fellow kids" campaign, where they're like, "Hey, all the cool kids are coming to Patreon to get their stuff funded."
And I want to tell you again, Patreon was kind of stealing this from webcomics, and they flat out admitted that. Like, webcomics were doing this pay, support, and for extra pages or not safe for work images, or whatever, for years before Patreon showed up to do it.
Yeah, they're talking about the valuation. This podcast, they're talking about how it's quite a journey over the past 8 years to go from a startup to a $4 billion valuation in a world where everyone is trying to compete in the creator space.
Do they sell cooking supplies and sex toys, and that makes them a tech company now or something?
Yeah, this is crazy. They were talking about how basically creators need to work outside the system, get extra money from their fans.
Don't do that. Work outside the system. Don't use Patreon.
Yeah, don't use Patreon. Patreon is a platform that will pull the plug on you for any nebulous reason.
And they literally were asking people that they thought they had the right to look in their Google Drive, and people were not getting paid. Remember we covered the one person, and the person wasn't getting paid. And they wouldn't tell them why, and eventually they did pay them, but they just took the money and weren't giving it to them, and they wouldn't tell them what was wrong. Like, you have people getting kicked off for unknown reasons. Mm-hmm. It's just when you ask them, okay, what are the reasons? Well, it's case by case basis. It depends. Wasn't the one like it depends how apologetic you are? That was something that was kind of something along those lines was said too.
I think that was with I want to say it was with Sargon. They basically were like, well, we would have reinstated him if we thought his apology was like, I don't sincere.
Follow this person, so I don't know much about them. But I'm just like, that's a little bit concerning when if you do something really shitty, I can understand it. But, if you didn't do anything wrong and you're at least not on the platform and you're following the rules, but they just can get rid of you because they don't like you for whatever reason that day. And you need to be clear. Like, it's like YouTube. They do the same thing, and it's like you need to be clear.
Yeah, they're not. And PayPal's not. And Kickstarter's not. But I think they're starting to learn that, like, again, if there's egregious content on your platform, hosted on your platform, well, okay, let's talk about John Silvestri, who was on Indiegogo, and he had his comic on there, and he had boobs, I think.
Oh, did he?
And they were going to pull his Indiegogo down, and they had him just put some bars over it, and then they put the campaign back up again. I'm
sorry, I was looking at this article here, and they're talking about, they're asking questions, and they're saying, about how I need a new revenue line for myself. I'm making 160 in ad revenue, and I want to grow a team. Patreon lets you do that. No.
Wait. 160,000?
I hit $160 by the looks of it. I love this question. How many people on Patreon are earning a full-time salary or something equivalent? I think the number we last released was around 250,000 creators that are making money. We don't know who's actually doing it full-time or who can't afford to.
Oh, my God.
So of all their creators, they have only 250,000 creators that are making money.
Well, yeah, a lot of people have the tin cup. They're not getting anything. I've gone to creators' pages before that they were only getting a couple dollars a month. I mean, that's the thing, too. Like, a lot of people don't want that extra step. And since it began mostly for YouTubers, and YouTube has already built in a membership service into their platform, you don't need it.
No.
I mean, this is all bullshit to get, a couple $1 billion out of investors.
Right. They're trying to bolster themselves up and be like, oh, look, we're getting all this media coverage. And they're asking the right kinds of questions to get us our.
Yeah. So this is the takeaway from all of this is that any one of these platforms, and I don't have a solution, but any one of these platforms can kick the legs out from underneath you.
Here's another one. There are creators who are building small business creative media companies, which was not a thing 10 years ago. Bullshit. It was a thing 10 years ago.
It absolutely
You're full of crap. That's not even true.
It was. There were people in webcomics that had, I know Blind Ferret. They had like an actual business. I know there's some individual creators that were hiring help, and it was
crap. Small business creative media companies, which weren't a thing. Oh my God, you're so full of it.
We went into business, our studio went into business about 10 years ago. And we were doing other stuff besides webcomics, but it was still the business. I mean, we were generating more money than $160 in ad revenue for the month. Even on our worst month, we were making more money than that. I mean, that's ridiculous.
And they're talking about, well, YouTube announced that they've seen 30 billion to creators in the last 3 years, and TikTok announced that, yeah, because they're TikTok and flipping YouTube and Spotify. Yeah, because they're way up here and Patreon's way down here. You can't compare the two. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Patreon.
I think it's funny because, they always talk about Kickstarter and Indiegogo being e-begging. And I'm like, I actually would say if any one of these platforms is an e-begging platform, it's Patreon, OnlyFans, because at least with Kickstarter and Indiegogo, 9 times out of 10, you're pre-ordering a product, an actual tangible product. But even this business model, they stole from webcomics creators, podcasters.
Yeah, they said they admitted it.
Yeah, Jack Conte admitted it. Yeah,
they're going on here about about health insurance and about getting loan from the bank for your business, and you can't do that. Well, you can't really do that on Patreon either. I mean, something like maybe if you need a loan to start something up, you maybe can get that from like a Kickstarter or Indiegogo, but that's not what Patreon's really set up to do. So I'm like, what the flip are they talking about?
Well, they're talking about like giving advances and stuff to creators too. That's something
based on what?
Based on your projected earnings.
Wait, so they're basically trying to do. Wait, they're going to.
They want to be a bank now. They want to be a bank.
They want to. Okay.
They want to be a bank.
Okay. I would trust them less than the actual bank, because at least actual banks have guidelines.
FDIC and all that.
And they have insurance and guidelines. I would trust a bank over Patreon, because Patreon has been all over the damn place. I'm sorry, but.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, look, we had, creators were, again, they're withholding payments and stuff on them.
How can you trust the bank unless you're being held up by the FBI or the government or something for search and seizure or whatever? They don't just take your money and not give it to you. They're not allowed to. It's set up in a way they can't do that unless there's a really, really good reason. But PayPal and Patreon have already proven they can just do that tomorrow if they feel like it. Who are you going to trust?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, not everyone's in the cohort, right? So there's talking about like people that have subscription businesses and they're like their cabal of higher tier creators. It's aggregate. It evens out to be about whatever the cohort was doing. Is that data transparent? Can I go look at somewhere? No, we haven't released cohort data on core growth of individual months of creators that are joining the platform.
Yeah, because then you're not going to get your investment capital, because they're going to be like, you need to prove that your claims.
Yeah, I asked this because once you start handing out that money, the question of who gets the money and who doesn't becomes fraught. Well, what we do is when we're talking to a creator about a particular deal, and again, this is not a thing that's our technically our product yet, right? These advances are happening with individual creators and individual team members at Patreon that are building out this product.
It's basically who we like. It's basically again like who gets banned. Well, it's very nebulous. Who gets the money? Well, it's very nebulous.
But this is a whole nother thing too. They actually have, I can tell you as a YouTuber that if you hit certain dollar amounts every month, that you actually through, whether it's your ad network or a third party, you can technically get advances if you need them. Why you would, I don't know, because they pay every month. Unless you're really, really, really bad with money or something, I don't know. But this is nothing new. This is just, it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit.
So what we learned that Patreon needs money, and they with nebulous reasons for everything. And we learned that if you have things on Kickstarter that PayPal and Kickstarter don't like for whatever reason, there's a double standard where the same kinds of things are allowed to go through if you're one type of person. But if you're a different type of person or a different type of project that's similar, they can just lock your money down. You can't get it for no reason. They're not going to tell you where the money went.
Well, that's what happened. Yeah, when they kicked Sargon off of Patreon, he was getting like $12,000 a month, and they just took it. I think it was like, nope, that's it. You're not.
I don't even know.
You're not getting it. So yeah, I wouldn't trust it.
Better send it back to the people who gave them the money.
I hope they did that. So I would agree with Jack Conte. You can't trust these platforms. I'm not saying don't use them, but I'm saying for God's sake, have a plan B. Don't put all your eggs into the basket of one of these platforms, especially if you're working on certain kinds of content, because you don't know when the handle is going to break. All right, we're going to wrap this one up.
Yep.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.